Well, earlier on today, the Prime Minister also laid out his thoughts on the trade deal's impact on food prices. Let's have a listen.
We're in Lidl because the deal that we struck yesterday will mean lower prices in our supermarket shelves like this, and that is really good news for customers of Lidl, for the staff of Lidl, and for all of those involved in food and agriculture. And so there's real buzz. I've just been with the staff. They're very pleased because they know that for their customers, for their families, it makes a real difference. I have to say, when I was with the staff, they were equally excited about the e-gates and being able to go on their holidays, which they've obviously already planned, and not be in the horrendously long queues. So on both fronts, lower prices in places like Lidl and the e-gates so they can go on holiday more quickly. The staff here are very pleased to see the work on the deal that we did yesterday.
Well, that's the Prime Minister earlier on in the cheese aisle. Was he a grand fromage, or did he say little of substance? Well, I'm joined now in the studio by the former Deputy Leader of Reform UK and Brexit Party MEP, the god dog of Brexit, Ben Habib. Ben, I wanted to get you in today because you're an expert at going through these things. This is all the paperwork from yesterday. This is that reset deal, page after page, document after document, on defence, on standards, on alignment, on the climate. You've been through them. I've been through them. The Prime Minister calls this historic, a win-win. Others say it's a surrender. You've been through it. What do you make of yesterday's deal?
Well, before we go to that, can I just remind viewers that in September 2023, when he thought he was off camera, Keir Starmer said, if I were ever to become Prime Minister, I would align us so closely with the European Union that people wouldn't be able to tell the difference whether we were in or out. And he's the same Prime Minister that wanted to have a second referendum and defeat the vote to leave the European Union. And I think the other thing people ought to look at when judging this deal is the massive smile von der Leyen had on her face yesterday. It was a clear victory for the EU. You don't get the EU out on a podium saying what a fantastic deal it is unless they've absolutely taken you to the cleaners. And constitutionally, as well as militarily, from a defence perspective, yesterday was a sellout of the United Kingdom. And of course, I mustn't forget our fisheries, where, you know, the period of time before the deal can be theoretically unpicked has been extended by 12 years. And it was remarkable to me that in defending the position on the fisheries, lots of commentators have said, well, fishing only contributes 0.03% of GDP. Well, there's a reason for that. It's because we've given all our fish away to the European Union. But yesterday, it was a really sad day for those of us who voted to leave the EU. It's been a sad process, frankly, for those of us who voted to leave the EU ever since 2016. The vote to leave was ignored by Theresa May. She tried to keep us in the single market. That deal was defeated. Boris Johnson promised he'd get Brexit done, but he didn't. And actually this deal, the strategic partnership that they want to set up on defence, was contemplated in the political declaration that Boris Johnson signed back in 2019. It didn't actually then come out in the trade and cooperation agreement, but it was very much in his mind in 2019, which is effectively the United Kingdom contributing to the European Defence Fund. So that's paying money in to a defence project for the research and development of military weaponry on an interoperable basis. Now, that's the crucial word, interoperable. So when they say we will be an independent country with our own military able to combat on our own terms, that's not true, because when this comes into fruition, we will be inextricably linked and meshed in the EU framework for defence. We won't be able to operate our weaponry without their blessing. That's how dangerous this is to the United Kingdom.
So Keir Starmer would counter that, of course, it makes sense to be strategically aligned to our nearest partners, especially with Vladimir Putin on the rampage. What would you say to that? Strategically, he would say it makes sense.
I completely disagree. The European Union isn't about the promotion of independent militaries of member states across Europe coming together to cooperate. It's about bringing it all together into one body of one military force under Brussels' direction. And we are, and we mustn't forget this, no matter how hollowed out our military is, it is the best military in Europe by miles. It's them who should be paying us to come in. But in perfect British government style, we've managed to give away the baby and we've paid for the privilege of giving it away. It's absolutely absurd. And the same goes, frankly, for this deal that he's done on sanitary and phytosanitary regulations, so-called making, as he said just now in Lidl, making food cheaper on the shelves in this country. But actually what he's done, I'll come to the constitutional point, but what he's done is made it impossible for this country to make regulations which suit British farmers. Yes, the same farmers who he robbed of the ability to hold their farms when they die earlier, last year when he brought out those IHT changes. The farming industry's been thrown under a bus by the sanitary and phytosanitary alignment with the European Union. But the other thing about the sanitary and phytosanitary alignment is that we now will become dynamically aligned with the European Union on those regulations. That means, Martin, that when the European Parliament passes a new regulation, we automatically take it on board. Sounds a bit like being part of the EU, doesn't it? And the court that will adjudicate that whether or not we're adhering to our obligations will be the European Court of Justice. So you'll have a foreign power making laws for the United Kingdom adjudicated by a foreign court.
OK, Ben Habib, we have to leave it there. A lot of people will be listening to this and feel like it's Groundhog Day. Did we ever actually Brexit? Ben Habib, thank you very much for joining us in the studio. Pleasure to have your company. And I'm now delighted to say I'm joined in the studio by the Shadow Home Secretary, Chris Philp. Chris, welcome to the studio. A pleasure once again to have your company. You were in Chamber earlier, a fairly robust exchange of ideas between your leader, Kemi Badenoch, and Sir Keir Starmer over this reset deal. Kemi Badenoch saying absolutely with certainty she felt this was a complete surrender.
That's right, Martin. I was sitting there in the chamber and there were loads of questions that Keir Starmer just couldn't answer. He had no justification at all for the fact he has sold out our fishermen for 12 years, whereas most places have much, much shorter deals that can then be renegotiated from time to time. He didn't even attempt to answer the question that all of our food safety and animal standards here in the United Kingdom are now going to get set by Brussels, by the EU, not just today, but all of their future rule changes going right into the years and decades ahead are going to get decided by Brussels with absolutely no say here at all. We are going to become rule takers, not just today, but right into the future. And by the way, it'll be the same for energy regulation as well. And what do we get in return for it? Well, frankly, not very much at all as far as I can see. When it comes to the military procurement, we're going to be paying a lot of money in. It's not clear at all if any European militaries are going to be buying our kit. They might. We simply don't know. And then on this so-called youth mobility question, about 60 million people, 60 million, aged up to 30 or maybe even 35 will be eligible, including from low-income countries, including in some places like Germany, illegal immigrants get citizenship, can get citizenship after just 3 years. They would be eligible to come as well. And there was not a sniff of a cap on that in sight, and they might even be able to claim benefits and bring dependents over as well.
Now, Keir Starmer did insist that there will be caps, there will be limits. We just don't know what they are yet. And in terms of the cost, we literally don't know the cost of it. One estimate today, Chris Philp, said it could be as much as £16 billion per year that the UK pays in. Well, we only used to pay £17 billion in when we were a full member, and we got £4.5 billion back. So financially, we don't know the details, and financially, it could be worse than before.
Well, it has the potential to cost us an absolute fortune. We don't know, as you say, what the caps are, if any, on this mobility scheme. So as far as I can see, Keir Starmer has written in a whole range of different areas what amounts to a blank cheque. I mean, this man is the world's worst negotiator. I mean, Martin, I suppose the only thing we can be grateful for is at least he didn't pay the European Union to have the Isle of Wight for free. That is about the only thing he didn't give away in this negotiation, as far as I can see.